Hi, I am Witold, and what an exciting topic I've got covered for you guys this time. It is a deep review and comparison of two fairly new contenders. A BMW F900XR that was introduced in 2020 and is powered by an 895 cubic centimeter engine. That is a modified inline two-cylinder engine that's coming from BMW F850GS and had its size expanded from 853 cubic centimeters and power increased from 95 to 105 horsepower. And the other one is the new for 2021 Yamaha Tracer 9 in the GT version. So the top of the line bike in the Tracer family with additional equipment included in its price, like semi-active suspension, heated grips, and a cornering front light, for example. The Tracer 9 has an inline three-cylinder engine with 890 cubic centimeters of displacement and with 119 horsepower. So let's dig into how these two compare with each other and the result of this comparison. I will cover the performance, how comfortable they both are in terms of position and seats, how they handle, and which one kicks the other one's ass on certain fields. Then some little and big things related to their design, and in the end what they both have and how they differ in terms of equipment. And all that will lead us to the conclusion of which one to choose. So let's rock and start off with what these both bikes really are, as it will give us context to everything else. So Yamaha puts their Tracer 9 in the sport touring category. That I agree with, as the Tracer has a rather powerful engine with decent low end for what we would expect this bike to be doing, and also it lets us sit in an upright position without putting much pressure on our backs and arms. So I agree, that is what generally makes a sport touring motorcycle, as it can be quick and you may ride it outside of the city with a passenger and luggage and be totally fine. Now BMW tries to tell us something slightly different about their bike. They tell us that BMW F900XR is the same type of a motorcycle that BMW F850GS or R1250GS is. So an adventure motorcycle. Just see they're in the same category right next to each other. The truth is that F900XR is not a bike to be compared with a GS directly, with the GS family especially, and that is simply because the GS family bikes let us go and ride off the road and stay safe, comfortable and confident there. Now F900XR is as confident as a mobile phone speaker at an AC/DC live concert. It can go off-road just as well as Yamaha bloody R1, and the result will be also very similar. It will either go through or not, but you will struggle not to fall at all times. That's going to be the story. These bikes are not meant to go off the road. R1, F900XR and the Tracer. I think BMW tries to tell us a little bit too much here, or rather to promise us a little bit too much here. I'm not fully fine with it. Now these bikes are quite compact. They're quite compact machines with large engines, but not that much power. The suspensions have short wheels travel, there's basically no ground clearance, and 100% street-oriented tires are mounted on all these bikes. So now that we've come to this, let's talk about the performance. And we already know that the engines of these two bikes, the 900 ones, are having basically the same displacements. Yamaha has 119 horsepower and 3 cylinders. BMW has 105 horsepower and 2 cylinders. Now what about the torque? It may be quite important in this category of motorcycles, and it's 93 Newton meters for Yamaha and 92 for BMW. So Tracer beats the BMW here on paper by 1 Newton meter, but you clearly see that they were supposed to be matching. But does it really beat it in the reality? It doesn't beat it, it demolishes it. There is no comparison here between these two, regardless of how little the difference in displacement, torque or power is. Yamaha is so much quicker and so much more explosive that this totally caught me actually off guard. The engine in BMW is a robust and proven power plant that has been there in the medium GS for years. It was being improved here and there over the time. It is not making those bikes particularly quick, but they will be quicker than most family saloon cars, most sedans on the road today. But certainly it wasn't the goal of Yamaha. What they've done with the Tracer 9 is on a completely different level here. This bike delivers plenty of excitement once you reach the second half of the RPM range, while I can ride the BMW all day long with the throttle wide open and I wouldn't even have to grab the handlebar any harder. With Yamaha there is fun that BMW won't give you if that's what you are after. BMW is fine, it pulls all the way from the bottom, the torque is there, but so is in the Yamaha. And I cannot see a way for BMW to win this one. Yamaha simply has so much more juice, to the point that to me that makes a big difference in perceiving those bikes. Yamaha in a GT version has a quick shift and BMW can have it added too. It enables you to change gears up and down without pulling the clutch. Just remember to close the throttle when downshifting to match the gears better. And you don't have to close the throttle when upshifting. You may just as well leave it wide open and just push the lever up and up. And that's great, and BMW's quick shifter works in my opinion much more smoothly than Yamaha's, especially in terms of how easy it is to actually move the gear lever, which in Yamaha may be quite hard, especially when downshifting. BMW has this area more perfected, I think, and also doesn't have an issue of vibrating at any RPM, and generally Tracer also doesn't. However, there is an annoying vibration when releasing the clutch when setting off. Every time the bike would sound and shake as if it was about to stall. No such problems with BMW on the other hand. So to sum up this area, if you like to get that shot of adrenaline or just simply like to have a lot of performance, or as much performance as possible, and still would like to go for this type of bike, I would say Yamaha is the way to go. It's actually closer to BMW, in my opinion, to BMW S1000XR in terms of performance than it is to the F900XR. I enjoyed its engine much more than the small BMWs, the small XR, the 900 one. But let's now talk about comfort. And if you are interested in both of these bikes, you likely care about your back. You are thinking about calm Sunday rides, or you consider touring on either of those bikes, maybe even with a passenger and some luggage. So it's not about looking for a sports bike, likely. It's not about going off the road in Africa or Bolivia, and also for some reason you may be more into compact motorcycles rather than big and heavy sports toolers like, for example, Yamaha FJR or BMW R1250 RT or even the K1600 series. So what about the sitting comfort on these two bikes? BMW's original seat is, in my opinion, much better than Yamaha's. And I do like to have a nice pillow under my bum, and if you do too, then you will be fine with what BMW offers, and Yamaha will cause you some pain unless you replace its seat. The current one is as if it wasn't there generally. It's hard like foam installed on straight metal or plastic. It's got hard edges and it's way too wide in its front part, which will be hurting your inner thighs every time you support yourself with any of your legs or both of them. If you are 1.90 meters tall, perhaps your legs will be long enough to just, spread them out so much that you will avoid those hard edges, but otherwise you are looking at an aftermarket seat here. The seat height is adjustable in the Yamaha, and that's a big plus for it. The adjustment ranges from 81 to 82.5 centimeters, which is still rather low, while in BMW it's just set at 82.5 centimeters, so like the higher position of the Yamaha. And it's way more comfortable in BMW, and for me it was also way easier to reach the ground without spreading my legs. I'm 1.83 meters tall, and in BMW the seat is not adjustable. On BMW I felt that I was leaning more forward with the handlebar further away from me, but not to the point of feeling like on a sports bike. It wasn't pulling me forward. Similar applies to Yamaha, with one difference, which is that I felt that the handlebar was closer to me, and so my position was a little bit more upright on it, I think. The handlebar's width was fine as well, and in fact in both places on both bikes, in terms of the upper body position, it was fine for me, and again I'm 183 centimeters tall, so 6 feet tall. I found the Yamaha's clutch lever to be actually too short, despite me not having super fat fingers. And I was finding myself having my fingers, squeezed by themselves a lot when operating clutch, and I would prefer to have a I would just prefer to have a longer lever here. I suspect it's an easy thing to replace. Now, there's one place where I need your attention, and it's about the foot pegs and how they are positioned. On BMW, I did not notice anything in particular, and everything was where it was supposed to be, and I felt like at home, no complaints. But on a Tracer GT, the foot pegs were too high for me and at an angle at which my feet were positioned in a way that was making it not comfortable for me to use the rear brake and also the gear lever, as I simply had to twist my feet very much up in order to be able to press the levers from top down. Just one thing though, Tracer has adjustable foot pegs, which not everyone knows about. So if you know in which position the foot pegs were on my Tracer 9, please let me know in the comments, and let's hope that they were in the taller position, because this would mean that they could still be lowered by 1.5 centimeters, and that could potentially limit the issue for me, at least here. I would like you guys actually to check this out, as if you are not used to tight sports bikes, you may not love the way things are with foot pegs in a Tracer 9. Another important point is wind protection, and it's not very good in either of those motorcycles, but it's better than nothing still, at least for BMW, which has an adjustable windshield with 2 positions. It's actually very easy to change. The protection is minimal, but it makes the wind hit you with a steady stream. So there's no turbulences. Now, Tracer's windshield is adjustable too, and it's easier to adjust, and I think it's a better system. But the thing is that behind this windshield, I was getting a lot of turbulences hitting my helmet. That was first of all. Second of all, it makes a louder experience. So if you want to go for the Tracer, I would say definitely replace its windshield with a taller aftermarket one that doesn't generate turbulences, and we are still talking about the Tracer GT here. I should also perhaps mention that when I was riding the Tracer, the weather was quite windy during that period of time, and perhaps somehow this contributed to this shaky and full of turbulence experience. But still, a windshield should help eliminate it, and it didn't. And it was not pleasant. Overall, in terms of the position, I would give it to the BMW, with Yamaha needing just a few modifications to match the BMW. But the position is not everything in terms of comfort, since suspension also, as you guys know, plays a huge role in the general feeling. So let's now cover how well the suspensions deal with rough surfaces and how those two bikes handle, because that may be even more important to some of you guys, even more crucial than performance or wind protection, which can be improved. So I would say that they both are on the stiff side, and riding both you will feel road irregularities, there's no doubt about it. However, there are 2 significant differences between those bikes. Once you ride over a large bump, BMW may be more easy on your spine than Yamaha, and I would prefer that, but the situation kind of reverses when we are talking about smaller road irregularities. My gut tells me that Yamaha is more composed when it comes to encountering and handling bumps and holes, and once it rides over them, everything gets back to normal immediately. So the bike is staying perfectly under control, while BMW isn't that great in my opinion. I had a very strange feeling that it was jumping way too much, and it was all over the place, to the point that it would take away a significant part of confidence from me when riding it, especially in the city with all the cars around me being so close. Any small or large bump would require my attention and to counter and to put the bike back on track to the way that I wanted to ride. And there's no such thing in a Tracer. And in the end, the confidence of the Tracer gives my head much more comfort. I think that BMW is somehow far too nervous in such conditions. Now, on the other hand, both were feeling very light and very easy to steer at low speeds, to the point that it was enjoyable to deal with them at low speeds. And again, provided that the tarmac was silky smooth for BMW, then it's enjoyable. With Tracer, it was sometimes even too easy to follow my commands. It was too eager to follow. And once you start leaning, the bike starts more and more and more, to the point that you've got to counter steer in order not to put it in the ground. BMW tells you clearly, or at least more clearly, how much more you can go and when to stop leaning. It kind of indicates you when you should stay at a certain angle. While the Tracer, it just does everything with full force, like a little dog that just jumps and just bites whatever there is. It does things at 100% and it needs a lot of time to get used to. It would surprise me even in the end when I was recording those shots with it. I rode behind the camera, I made a U-turn, which of course started becoming too deep thanks to the lack of feedback. So I worked with the clutch and the throttle to accelerate a bit more. It did that. The bike's engine died. With BMW, at some point of the shooting, the engine's starter button wouldn't want to work, or the starter itself didn't want to work. It had keyless access, but the bike was already unlocked and it wasn't telling me, it wasn't signaling that it would lose contact with the key, which I had in my pocket right next to the bike. Yet the bike just wouldn't react. No idea what happened, but after a moment the bike would just start as if nothing happened. Also weird, I would say. Those aren't cheap bikes. Both in base specifications, the Tracer 9 being just a Tracer 9 without the GT in its name, both would be at around 11,000 euros or dollars. And with equipment that makes the most sense, I would say, and the Tracer being Tracer 9 GT at that moment with signed panniers, then we are talking about 13,000 euros or dollars for both of these bikes. And both bikes were new with just a few thousand kilometers on the clocks, and they both also belong to the dealers where they were serviced. So you guys be the judges here. In terms of handling, in the end of the day, I like the Tracer 9 GT more because of the confidence that it would give me while providing the super light feeling that is there in BMW 2, but there it translates into the bike being bouncy and jumpy. With a Tracer, just be careful in the beginning, as it's encouraging to make very tight maneuvers and may end badly if you are not that careful. It may simply surprise you. It's not as stable in the corners and when being at a certain angle, and it doesn't give that good of a feedback. But with a Tracer you can do a lot and really enjoy it. Now let's take a look at some external features and sum up the design. So Tracer 9 looks to me like a smaller version of BMW S1000XR, which is of course surprising, as one would rather expect the smaller BMW to look like a bigger member of its family. Yet I think that there are more similarities between the Tracer 9 and the big XR rather than those two XR bikes in terms of design. Yamaha looks more muscular than the small XR and much more sharp somehow, so just like the big S1000XR. The F900XR tends to look less mature and more like a toy, rather than a almost 1 liter motorcycle. And this is very personal, I understand, but I like the looks of the Yamaha better here. Until I take a look at the front and switch the lights on. What a stupid thing Yamaha did with the Tracer. Only half of the bike has lights on, which is ridiculous, and to me it just looks bad. Why ruin such a nice looking bike? I just don't know why they do that. If you are about to get a Tracer 9 GT, you may choose at least, and thankfully, those awesome blue wheels, which are absolutely stunning. So they do some things in an amazing way and then they f up something that's one of the major things on the other hand. Now in a BMW, you have a regular exhaust cam mounted on the side of the bike. Now Yamaha went for a different solution. They decided to place the exhaust underneath the bike, which is quite interesting, I think. And it doesn't do any harm. It lets the bike keep what I call a very clean look from both sides. And I must say that I like it in this bike, and it's certainly something unusual in this case. It's up to you guys to decide which one you prefer to look at, and please let me know in the comments which one you think looks better between these two. In terms of sound, both bikes have inline engines and both sound rather lame. Aftermarket exhausts may help and give those sounds some depth, but I would say that we shouldn't probably expect much. Tire sizes are identical. In the front of both bikes, they are 17 inches. And that's yet another proof that these bikes are only built for on-road use. So front tires are 120 by 17 inches, and the rear tires are also the same in both bikes. They are 180 by 55, also 17 inches. But what is different is fuel tank capacity, that for BMW is 15.5 liters, while Yamaha has 2.5 liters more at 18 liters in total. And I would say I'd prefer 18 liters than 15.5. Now, total weight of the bikes with fuel is almost identical and is 219 kilograms for BMW and 220 kilograms for Yamaha. So both are quite light. But hey, what is this fly looking at? It's looking at you. And it's looking at you all the time while you are riding the Tracer 9 GT. That's the display that consists of two smaller displays. The reasons of installing two smaller screens instead of one larger will have to stay a mystery, but there is likely no logical explanation to it. But it's something different, and well, hey, why not? The menus seem like a lot in a Tracer, but they are fairly easy to understand and navigate through. It's all there at once, but you never have to go, thanks to that, anywhere deep into any kind of menus and sub-screens, and that's the main difference between BMW and Yamaha here. BMW went with the one larger screen that has more hidden menus. It's not very complicated, the screens are clear, there are nicer graphics in BMW, but generally both are fine in my opinion. Anyway, let's take a look up close and compare the quality of the bikes. I would say that's a win for BMW, that feels more solid, especially in terms of the switches there on the handlebar. Also in terms of the displays and the area in front of our eyes after we sit on the bikes. BMW just seems to be a better build with better materials, less cheap plastic and more solid buttons. They not only feel more solid, but they look more solid and they are more consistent in terms of design. They are matte instead of shiny with many edges like in Yamaha, and they just look more modern in BMW. Yamaha switches look as if they were coming off of a 10-year-old Japanese motorcycle, and that's a clear win for BMW in the premium feel category. And let's remember that both bikes are priced at pretty much the same level in their base versions, so the Tracer without the GT in its name. BMW is less powerful on one hand, and there comes this premium feel to kind of make up, or to try to make up, for that clear gap in performance. So it's up to you guys which you prefer. So what about equipment of this Tracer 9 GT now and BMW F900XR with some options available to it? Buying BMW F900XR, you've got some 2,500 euros or dollars to spend on additional equipment and accessories to match the price and to match the equipment of the Tracer 9 GT. Without any extras, they both have cornering ABS, traction control, adjustable windshields, they've got LED front lights. Now, Tracer GT, because of being the GT version and being those 2,500 euros or dollars more expensive, it has, in addition, heated grips. It has cornering front light, so it's helping you see in the corners. It's got a quick shifter, it's got cruise control, it's got also this semi-active suspension, which is supposed to make it more composed, and it perhaps does. There are also two side panniers included in the price, and that should be about that in terms of what it has extra. BMW can also be equipped with heated grips, with cornering front light, with a quick shifter, with a cruise control, and it can have ESA adjustable suspension added, and hand protectors as well. That's another thing. And I'm going to skip the side panniers here. That's not something that I would be interested in myself, for example. But at this point, BMW would cost 12,700 euros, and you would still have a room to add additional riding modes. Then the BMW is at 13,100 euros total, and I don't care about side panniers myself. What BMW can have that Yamaha cannot is keyless access. So it allows you to keep the key in your pocket, in your backpack, wherever you want to carry it, and it lets you start the bike's engine without inserting the key anywhere. Same with switching it off. I love this feature, and I believe that it gives BMW a huge edge here. You can also fuel it up, open the fuel cap without inserting any key. And it's below 250 euros. So the bike ends up at 13,350 euros with keyless access and no side panniers versus 13,500 euros for a Tracer 9 GT without keyless access feature and with side panniers. Of course, you can get side panniers for BMW as well. Now, getting the Tracer, you may also order a heated seat for yourself, and BMW cannot have that on the other hand. I would say that they are close in terms of equipment, and if you don't want to go for the more exotic Tracer 9 GT, you may still get the regular Tracer 9 that costs exactly the same as the base BMW F900XR, while it still gives you the performance that is closer to BMW S1000XR rather than the 900XR. I surely know which out of those I would choose, having all that in mind. But which one would you guys choose and why? Please let me know and subscribe so that I can see you soon in the next video. See you!